All right, let's dive into deep work today.
Okay.
We're going to be like really breaking down Cal Newport's book.
Good.
And like, I think it's super relevant to everyone listening, right?
Absolutely.
Especially those of us who work with our minds all day.
Yeah,
It's like distraction city out there.
it really is.
So we're going to try and answer some big questions today.
Okay.
Like, is deep work actually as valuable as everyone says it is?
Right.
Are there like times when it's not the best approach?
Yeah, good question.
And if it is so valuable, what does it do for our brains?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are the real tangible benefits?
For sure.
And like maybe the most important question,
Yeah.
how do we actually implement deep work in our crazy busy lives?
Right, that's the big one.
Yeah, like we're not all monks living in isolated cabins. So where do we even start?
Well, the book kicks off with this really interesting economic argument for deep work.
Okay, lay it on me.
It basically says that technology, all the tech we have today is kind of creating a divide, right?
Okay.
It's favoring people who can really excel in a few key areas.
I'm all ears. Let's hear what those areas are.
So the first one is being able to work well with all these intelligent machines.
Ah, interesting.
Like, think about Nate Silver.
Oh yeah, the election guy.
Exactly. He uses all this complex statistical analysis for forecasting elections.
Right.
So that blend of human skill with powerful technology,
Yeah,
that's becoming super valuable.
totally. It's like a whole new kind of expertise.
It is. And then the second area is being able to become the best at what you do.
Okay, the cream of the crop.
Yeah, so the book uses the example of this programmer, David Heinemeier Hansen.
I don't know him.
He basically built this software called Ruby on Rails.
Okay.
And he's reached this level of mastery where he can attract the best clients. He commands premium rates.
He's in demand.
Big time. And the book argues that it's because of all the deep work he's put in.
So he's honed his skills to this razor sharp edge.
Exactly. That's the power of deep work.
Makes sense. So what about that third group? You mentioned three, right?
Right. The third group is those who have access to capital.
Okay, so investors.
Yeah, think venture capitalists.
Okay, yeah.
They thrive in this kind of labor-reduced economy
Interesting.
because their returns get magnified when they can generate a ton of value,
Right.
but with fewer employees.
I see. So they need people who can do a lot with a little.
Exactly.
It's like that story in the book about Jason Ben, right?
Oh, yeah, I love that story.
He quit his finance job to learn how to code.
Mm-hmm.
But he went all in, locked himself in a room.
No distraction.
No computer even, just textbooks, pure focus.
Wow.
And bam, within 6 months, he lands a high-paying tech job.
Incredible.
But it wasn't just about learning to code. It was the way he learned it.
Yeah, totally. It was that intensity, that deep immersion.
Exactly.
By eliminating all the distractions. He forced himself to engage with the material on a much deeper level.
Yeah, yeah.
And that allowed him to absorb it way faster.
So deep work isn't just about putting in the hours.
Yep.
It's about the quality of those hours.
Exactly.
But hold on a sec. The book also talks about Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, the Twitter guy.
Yeah, he runs both Twitter and Square.
Busy guy.
Super busy. But it doesn't seem like he's big on deep work.
Right.
Doesn't that contradict the whole argument?
Well, not necessarily. Dorsey's role as CEO, right? It requires him to be constantly plugged in.
Yeah, always on.
Making decisions, reacting to this ever-changing landscape.
Okay, so his value is different.
Yeah, he's not necessarily producing a tangible output.
Right, more like managing and directing.
Yeah, exactly.
So it sounds like deep work isn't a one-size-fits-all solution.
Right. The book really emphasizes nuance.
Yeah.
It argues that for most knowledge work, though, deep focus is probably going to be beneficial unless you have really strong evidence to the contrary.
Okay, that's fair.
And it makes you ask yourself,
Yeah.
is my job really incompatible with deep work?
Right.
Or am I just assuming that?
That's a good point. It's easy to just write it off.
It is.
But even if we totally buy into the benefits of deep work, it feels like our whole work culture is against it.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Open offices, constant connectivity.
It's tough.
Like Facebook, right? They have this massive open office.
I know, and there's research showing how bad that is for concentration.
Exactly, but it's the trendy thing to do.
It is, and then there's this pressure to be always connected on social media,
Yeah, even the New York Times.
Really?
Yeah, they encourage their writers to be active on Twitter.
Wow, that's surprising.
I know, right? It's this need to be constantly visible.
Yeah, the book calls this the metric black hole.
What's that?
It's like, knowledge work is hard to measure.
Right, you can't just count widgets.
Exactly. So we end up valuing visible activity over, like, actual results. So busyness becomes like a proxy for productivity.
It's like that story about the refrigerated truck.
Oh, yeah, with the, like, us on Facebook snicker.
Yeah, like, what does that have to do with keeping food cold?
Nothing. It's just this, like, internet centrism.
Right, where the online world is everything.
And anything else seems, like, invisible.
It's like we've forgotten that deep work is what actually drives progress.
Yeah, it's the real fuel for innovation.
So yeah, we're kind of fighting an uphill battle here.
It feels that way.
It's not just our own brains, it's like our whole environment.
It's a systemic issue.
And even societal expectations. It's all working against us.
It's tough out there for a deep worker.
It really is. So we're kind of up against it then?
Yeah, it's a challenge.
But at least the book doesn't just like leave us with the problem.
No, not at all.
It actually dives into like the upsides of deep work.
Right, the benefits.
Yeah, like neurologically and even philosophically.
Exactly, it gets pretty deep.
So what like really stood out to you in that area?
Well, there's this story about Winifred Gallagher.
I don't think I know her.
She's a science writer. And during her cancer treatment,
Wow.
she discovered that, like, focusing on the good, even though she was going through this really tough time,
Right.
it had this, like, huge impact on her happiness.
So it's like we can actually train our attention to like change how we experience things.
Absolutely. We have more agency than we realize.
That's really powerful. I mean, it's
I
like
think it is.
we're not just at the mercy of our circumstances.
Right. We can choose how we respond.
And this ties into like the whole problem of shallow inputs.
Yeah. Email, social media, all that stuff.
It's like they're training our brains to focus on like stress and negativity.
Exactly. We're basically rewiring ourselves for unhappiness.
Ugh, that's a scary thought.
It is, which makes the whole flow state thing even more appealing.
Oh yeah, Mahali, 6 Cent Mahali.
Yeah, that's the guy.
The idea that deep concentration can lead to this, like
Yeah.
really rewarding feeling.
Flow state. It's like being in the zone.
Exactly, but it's not just about like feeling good.
Yeah, no, it goes deeper than that.
Okay, how so?
Well, the book argues that deep work helps us tap into this sense of meaning, a sense of craftsmanship in our work.
I love how they bring up Dreyfus and Kelly.
Yeah, those guys.
They talk about craftsmanship revealing the inherent value in the work itself.
Right. It's not about external validation.
It's like finding satisfaction in the process of creation.
Exactly. And I think that's something a lot of us are missing.
Yeah, that sense of purpose.
Yeah, that connection to our work.
Okay, so deep work is valuable. It's rare.
Definitely.
And it has all these potential benefits.
Yeah, sure.
But like, how do we actually do it?
Right. That's the million-dollar question.
I mean, distractions are everywhere.
They are.
Our brains are wired for novelty. And our workplaces are often like actively working against us.
It's not easy, but the book does offer some guidance.
Okay, I'm listening.
One of the most interesting ideas is the eudaimonia machine.
What?
The eudaimonia machine, it's this theoretical building designed specifically for deep work.
Interesting.
So imagine like a space with a gallery for inspiration, an office for like shallow tasks, and then these like isolated chambers for deep focus.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's about creating an environment that supports different modes of thinking.
I'm already picturing mine.
Right.
But let's be real, most of us don't have that kind of luxury.
No, you're right.
So what's the takeaway?
Well, it's about intentionality.
Okay.
We might not have a dedicated building.
Right.
But we can still create pockets of deep work in our existing environments.
And it's not just about the physical space, right?
No, not at all.
It's like our brains need training too. Just trying to do more deep work.
Yeah.
It could feel like overwhelming.
It can, especially when our minds are so used to distractions.
So what do we do?
Well, the book outlines 4 different philosophies for scheduling deep work.
4. All right, let's hear them.
So we've got monastic, bimodal, rhythmic, and journalistic.
Wow. Okay, that's quite a range.
Yeah, each one offers a different approach.
Okay, so first up, monastic.
Right. So this one is all about eliminating shallow work entirely.
Whoa, hardcore.
Yeah, think like Donald Knuth. He's like this super famous computer scientist.
Okay.
Or Neil Stephenson, the science fiction writer.
Okay, yeah.
They've basically structured their whole lives around deep work.
I mean, I admire their dedication.
It's impressive.
But that's not realistic for most people, right?
You're right. It's a pretty extreme approach.
Especially if you have, like, a family and stuff.
Yeah. It's more for people with a singular demanding craft.
Okay, so maybe not for everyone.
Right, but it's still an interesting concept.
So what about bimodal then?
So bimodal is about alternating between periods of intense focus and periods of like more open engagement.
So it's like batching your time.
Yeah, exactly.
To maximize both deep work and like collaboration.
Right. Carl Jung is a good example.
Oh yeah, the psychologist.
Yeah, he had his Bollingen Tower for deep thinking.
Right, his retreat.
But he also had a busy life in Zurich.
So he found a way to balance both.
He did. And then there's Adam Grant.
I know him, the Wharton professor.
Yeah, he concentrates all his teaching into one semester.
Really?
Yeah, and then the other semester is for, like, research and writing.
That's a cool approach.
It is. It works well for project-based work.
Or for people who need, like, bursts of focus.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm digging this. What's next?
Next up is rhythmic. This one's probably the most common.
Okay, why is that?
It's all about establishing a regular routine.
Okay.
With dedicated blocks of time for deep work.
So it's like building a habit.
Exactly. It fits well into a standard work week.
It sounds more, like, doable, you know?
It is. It might not be as dramatic as the monastic or bimodal approaches, but it can be really effective for consistent progress.
I like that. Consistency is key.
It is. And then finally we have journalistic.
Okay, this one sounds interesting.
This is about seizing any opportunity for deep work.
Even if it's just for a little
Even
bit?
if it's just a short burst, yeah. Like Walter Isaacson.
The biographer.
Yeah, he wrote that massive Kissinger biography.
That was a huge book.
It was, and he did it while working as a journalist.
Wow, how did he manage that?
He basically treated deep work like a muscle.
Okay.
Ready to be flexed whenever he had a chance.
So it's about being flexible and opportunistic.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. It's like fitting it in wherever you can.
Right. It works well for people with unpredictable schedules.
Yeah, or those who thrive on spontaneity.
Exactly.
All right, those are some really cool approaches.
Yeah, they're pretty interesting.
I'm already thinking about which one might work for me.
Me too.
But, like, even if we pick the right philosophy, how do we actually train our minds for depth?
That's a good question.
It's like we're so conditioned to distraction.
We are.
It feels almost impossible to break free.
It's a challenge, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, it's almost like we're addicted to those little dopamine hits.
It really is.
You know, from checking our phones and like jumping between tasks.
Yeah. Our brains love novelty.
So how do we like break free from that?
Well, the book talks about deliberate practice. Like it tells the story about Adam Marlin.
Okay.
And he's this guy who credits his professional success to his like really rigorous study of the Talmud.
The Talmud.
Yeah, it's like this ancient Jewish text.
Oh.
Super complex, requires intense concentration.
Right.
And he believes this mental training helped him focus and be more creative in his work.
So it's like we need to treat deep work like any other skill.
Exactly. Consistent practice is key.
So we got to train our brains.
We do. And there's this research by Clifford Nass.
Who's that?
He's a professor at Stanford, and he studied, like, chronic multitaskers.
Oh, interesting.
And he found that their brains were basically rewired.
Rewire?
Yeah, to be, like, suckers for irrelevancy.
Whoa, that's kind of scary.
It is. I mean, even when they wanted to focus, their brains were constantly looking for distractions.
So we're, like, actively making it harder to focus.
Yeah, it's a bit of a vicious cycle.
Okay, so we need to, like, retrain our attention.
They do.
But how? What are some, like, practical things we can do?
Well, one of the simplest things is actually embracing boredom.
Boredom.
Yeah, instead of reaching for our phones.
Every 5 seconds.
Right, we can just, like, be okay with a little downtime.
So sit there and be bored.
Yeah, it sounds weird.
It does.
But it helps strengthen our focus.
Ah, interesting.
Another thing is scheduling internet blocks.
Okay, so, like, designated times for checking email and stuff.
Exactly, instead of just constantly browsing.
Yeah. I'm definitely guilty of that.
It's so easy to get sucked in.
It is.
But by planning our online time, we reduce those mental switches between tasks.
And, like, strengthen our attention muscles.
Exactly. It's all about being more intentional.
I like that.
The book also talks about productive meditation.
What's that?
So instead of letting our minds wander during, like, a walk or a commute, we can use that time to actively think through a problem.
Oh, I see.
Or work on a creative project.
So turning downtime into deep thinking time?
Exactly. It's like a mental workout.
Okay, so we've covered scheduling deep work, training our minds.
Right.
But let's be real. There's always going to be shallow work.
Oh, yeah. It never ends.
So how do we manage that without, like, letting it take over?
Well, that's where draining the shallows comes in.
Okay, what's that all about?
It's about minimizing those low-value tasks.
You know, the ones that clutter up our day.
Exactly. They're like energy vampires.
It's like that story about 37 Signals.
Oh, yeah, the software company.
They did that 4-day work week experiment, right?
They did, and they even gave everyone June off.
What? A whole month?
Yeah, to focus on deep work projects.
That's amazing.
It was, and they found that people were just as productive.
Really?
If not more so.
Wow, so sometimes less is more.
Exactly. It challenges that whole always busy mentality.
It does. So how do we, like, drain the shallows in our own lives?
The book suggests two main strategies.
Okay, hit me.
The first is scheduling every minute of your day.
Wait, every minute?
Not necessarily like bathroom breaks and stuff.
Okay.
But being intentional about how we spend our time.
Right, so deep work doesn't get squeezed out.
Exactly. It's about planning ahead.
Okay, what's the second strategy?
Quantifying the depth of your work.
How do we do that?
The book uses this college graduate test.
Okay.
So ask yourself,
Yeah.
how long would it take to train a new grad to do this task?
Interesting.
If it takes a long time, it's probably deep work.
Right, because it requires specialized skills.
Exactly. But if a new grad could learn it quickly...
Then it's probably shallow work.
Right, and the book suggests aiming for 30 to 50% deep work.
That seems, like, doable.
It is. It's a good starting point.
So it's not about becoming a hermit.
Whoa.
It's about finding a balance.
Yeah. Yeah, between deep work and, like, the rest of life.
Okay, but there's one thing we haven't talked about.
What's that?
Email. It's like the ultimate shallow work trap.
Oh, yeah. It's a constant battle.
It feels like we have to respond to every message immediately.
It's that inbox zero mentality.
Yeah, but the book warns about the tyranny of email, right?
It does. It can really take over our lives.
So how do we tame the beast?
Well, one idea is the sender filter.
What's that?
You only respond to emails from people you know.
Whoa, that's pretty radical.
It is, but it forces others to find a better way to reach you.
So it's about setting boundaries.
Exactly, and prioritizing communication from those who matter most.
I like that. Being more proactive.
Another tip is to do more work up front in your emails.
Okay, so like give all the info they need right away.
Exactly. Minimize the back and forth.
It saves everyone time.
It does. And then there's the most radical suggestion.
Oh boy, what's that?
Don't respond.
Just ignore them.
Not all of them, but sometimes silence is the best answer.
Huh. I never thought of it that way.
It's about recognizing that not every email deserves our attention.
Okay, so we've talked about scheduling deep work, training our minds, minimizing shallow work,
right,
and even conquering email.
We've covered a lot.
But is there anything else we can do?
Well, the book emphasizes the importance of downtime.
Downtime.
Yeah, it's not just about working hard.
It's about resting hard, too.
Exactly. Deep work is a finite resource.
You can't just go, go, go all the time.
Right, we need to recharge.
So Cal Newport recommends a shutdown ritual.
Yeah, at the end of the workday.
Like a way to signal to our brains that it's time to switch off.
Exactly, and he gives 3 reasons why it's so important.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, it lets your unconscious mind keep working on problems.
Interesting.
Second, it helps you recharge for the next day.
Makes sense.
And third, it protects your deep work capacity from getting depleted.
So it's like giving our brains permission to rest.
Exactly. And he also talks about setting clear goals and using techniques like 40X to track progress.
So it's not just about saying, I'm going to do more deep work.
No, we need a plan.
A system and a way to measure how we're doing.
Exactly. That's how we make it stick.
You know, we started this deep dive asking if deep work is really valuable and if it's even possible in our world of distractions.
Right.
And I think after exploring all this, the answer is a resounding yes.
I agree.
Deep work isn't just a productivity hack.
It's a way of life.
Yeah, it's a path to a more meaningful, more fulfilling way of working.
And in a world that's constantly vying for our attention, deep work is a superpower.
I love that. A superpower.
It's the ability to focus, to resist the shallow.
And to create work that truly matters.
Exactly. That's what it's all about.
So to wrap things up, I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
The book talks about how by deliberately scheduling our time, We're actually reclaiming control of our lives.
Powerful stuff.
We can choose to live our lives.
Yeah.
Rather than just exist.
It's a choice we all have to make.
So as you go back to your own work, think about this.
Okay.
Are you going to let the distractions win?
Right.
Or are you going to become a master of deep work?
It's up to you.
Shape your own destiny. Make your mark on the world.
That's the challenge.
The choice is yours.